Speaking on former Obama campaign strategist David Axelrod's podcast, The Axe Files.
By the way, that's a fantastic name.
I disagree with you. Former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder addressed NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden. I got the Eric Holder quotes here. Look, fans of this podcast or listeners regularly know that we talk about Edward Snowden all the time. A hero, not a traitor. And I dislike what Eric Holder had to say here on a couple of different levels, but let me read the quote and then we'll get into it. He says, "We can certainly argue about the way in which Snowden did what he did, but I think that he actually performed a public service by raising the debate that we engaged in and by the changes that we made." Sounds good on face value. You didn't really make any changes, so that's like a bullshit kind of propaganda thing. And if you watch the Vice interview with Snowden from this past weekend, it's gotten worse. Like, nothing's really happened because of it. People are aware of it, but no structural changes really have been made to the NSA. I mean, that's
not at
insane,
all.
and it's a crazy thing for Holder to even ordain to take credit for something like that. Now, I would say that doing what he did and the way he did it was inappropriate and illegal. Oh, so he performed a public service.
But it's
you
still
guys
illegal.
you changed the way you were doing business, supposedly, because of what he did, but you still think it was illegal and he did it wrong. Oh, okay. I know there are ways in which certain of our agents were put, and now this is where it really pisses me off, because this is all bald-faced lies. It's not the case. Because if it was the case, he'd be able to point to specifics of what he's about to say. But let's see what he has to say. "I know there were ways in which certain of our agents were put at risk, relationships with other countries were harmed, our ability to keep the American people safe was compromised. There were all kinds of redos that had to be put in place as a result of what he did. And while those things were being done, we were blind in certain really critical areas. So what he did was not without consequence." Really, name one consequence.
He's not going to name them.
Right, these vagaries. And then you also go and look at all of the data. They're not stopping terror attacks. We're spying on ourselves and our allies, essentially, with all these programs. We're not stopping any terrorism by this. There's no documented proof that any of that happens. But yes, in certain really critical areas, Snowden fucked. Get out of here. I think in deciding what an appropriate sentence should be, I think a judge could take into account the usefulness of having had that national debate. Yeah, okay.
It saves
so
you 1 year,
aggravating.
right? Saves you 1 year on that one?
Yeah, if that. The national debate was had, no reforms were made, and I think people just kind of tend to forget about this stuff, but that's why we talk about it all the time. Everything Snowden put out is extremely valuable, still relevant, getting worse, and it's people like Eric Holder, and this is, again, a frustration with the Obama administration and why I didn't vote for him the second time, why I wouldn't support Hillary. They're not really different than what's going on the right. They're just willing to pay lip service to the idea that they're making a change when they're not actually making a change. They're still using the mass surveillance apparatus to domestically spy on people, track your information. It's not actually keeping us safe. It's harming us in a lot of ways, the chilling effect of journalism and all this stuff. It's very frustrating. And I hate the fact that he goes on his buddy's podcast to talk about it. A very uncritical interview. You know what I mean? It's a puff piece to talk about, oh, we got Obama elected. It's great. I did this and I did that. But in the reality, you really just perpetuated a system that is not working for the vast majority of American citizens.
So why even bother having Eric Holder say it was a public service?
Well, because I think on a certain level, he has to admit that. You can't, the longer this goes, the farther we get away from these leaks, hopefully more and more people are going to recognize that it was a public service and that it's very important that this information is out there. And to that point, Snowden tweeted in response to this, 2013, it's treason. 2014, maybe not, but it was reckless. 2015, still, technically it was unlawful. 2016, it was a public service, but, and then he put 2017 and left it blank because as time goes on, they're softening their tune because it's so obvious that it was a public service. This guy was not doing it to further his own cause or, make it a cause célèbre or any of this stuff.
I think they're just softening up for him to think he'd be safe by coming back, and then they're going to get him.
He's no dummy, though. Snowden's not coming back until you can come back and you have immunity. He's not going to come back that way.
He won't come back until he has it in writing.
Well, yeah, or whatever the official thing is. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, annoying, but I keep my eye on Snowden related stuff because I think it's important to stay on top of it. And not that I need to defend the guy, but I like, reiterating the fact that he did a good thing. He's a patriot and we should have him here rather than have him ostracized in Russia as some kind of, traitor.
But he's going to spend the next 3 years there, at least.
Excuse me, I was drinking my cherry pomegranate polar seltzer. It's very, very nice on a warm day in Manhattan. Yeah, he got 3 years, his extended asylum in Russia. So that's what you're referring to. But he doesn't have to stay for the full 3 years. If tomorrow Obama pardoned him, he'd be like, I'm out.
I'm coming home.
Yeah, he'd come up. Come on home, Edward Snowden.